We're live.
And we are live. So anyway, 181, we have a small. It might not be an issue, but we have never put a tax on satellite. We did try once. It was extremely unpopular. There were banners put across everybody's satellite TV screen saying the state is raising your cost of getting TV. If that happens again, it could slow this bill down. And I'd like to get this bill moving, so I thought I could ask Kirby to just write those 3 words. Or somebody else has told me they think we might be able to do that and not lose money. So I guess I'm asking you to postpone it until we can get some more details and think about whether or not we haven't had any testimony. On putting a tax on satellite.
I thought it was on Yugoslavia and East Germany and Uzbekistan.
If I could do that, I would. Okay, so that takes care of that one. At 2:00, we've got somebody from DPS coming in to talk about the 236, just because I've already invited them and maybe they'll say something that will enlighten everyone that takes their mind, but I thought we'd finish up that testimony. And then today, we have people from Rygate who would like to talk to us. And Bridget, do you want to come up and set the stage and chat, maybe a little of the background?
Yes, I have a presentation then.
Great.
And
We are doing,
Andy Britton.
okay, we aren't doing 181 at all today, and 236 won't be on until at least 2. And that's just the Department of Public Service telling us what
It's an old outdated agenda. They're coming in at 1:30.
they're coming in at 1:30.
There's
Okay, that was yesterday. We're gonna keep going from where we are. So. This particular issue, folks that are new, has been through this committee at least twice. Okay, so Bridget, fill us in on what those twices were.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, Bridget Morris from Morris Strategies. I'm here on behalf of my client, Rygate Associates. I am joined today by Larry Anderson, who's on Zoom, who's the plant manager. And I have Andy Boutin here from his company, Pellergy, here in Montpelier, who is managing a project for Rygate, which is a wood pellet facility, which we will get into the detailed content soon. I thought it would make sense to start with an overview of the plant. A lot of you have been in this committee for a number of years and you're very aware of this, but I thought it would be worth reviewing the legislative history and an overview of Act 155 in 2022, which is what's bringing us here today. And we will speak about some of the efficiency projects that Rygate is working on to meet those goals in Act 155. And we have some amendments that we're asking for an extension to that timeline today. So the Rygate biomass plant has been operational since 1993. It generates 20 megawatts of baseload power here in the state and has 21 employees, approximately 250 people employed in the production and delivery of 250,000 tons of poultry chips. They have $2 million a year in wages and benefits, and they contribute $350,000 annually in state and municipal taxes. They currently operate on a power purchase agreement where the price is 100 megawatts an hour, and renewable energy credits are shared 10% with Rygate and 90% with Vermont Utility. So just for a brief legislative history, in 2011, the legislature enacted 30 VSA 8000, Section 8009. establishing baseload renewable power portfolio requirement. In 2012, the PUC set the PPA rate for 10 years, expiring in November 1, 2022 for Rygate. In 2021, you enacted Act 39, extending that rate for 2 years to 2024. And then in 2022, you passed S-161, which is Act 155. Act 155 extends the power purchase agreement to 2032 conditionally. It requires Rygate to improve the plant efficiency by 50% and establishes a timeline for Rygate to achieve this. If they fail to meet the timeline, the PPA is terminated. So here's the current timeline that was set forth in Act 155. In July of 2023, the Rygate owners had to submit a signed contract for the construction of an efficiency piece and achieve certification of engineering, which was accomplished. And in October 1 of 2024, this year, we have to certify that the main component has been completed. And if that it fails, the PPA ceases on November 1st of this year. If they do, then September 1 of 2025, the DPS investigates and makes a recommendation to the PUC based on their ability to meet these goals. And in November 1, if they do not make a positive recommendation, the PPA ceases. In November 1 of 2026, the PUC then determines a new PPA rate for the period of November 1, 2026 to November 1, 2032. I'm going to pass it over to Andy now, who's going to talk about what they're doing to achieve those standards.
And before, the talk had been about shrimp harvesting. Question is, how do you use the excess heat to make the plant more efficient? Right now, the heat is going up. I'd also like to point out that Rygate has not managed to use its excess heat to heat houses, which is not right. McNeil has not managed to get that done either. So we were looking for something that would be viable. And there was also some purchases that went, the plant was purchased, and the owner of the plant had other of his things go bankrupt. So there was a great deal of uncertainty about the stability and the future of the plant. Correct. Yeah.
Hey, Madam Chair, members of the Andrew Bhutan, I go by Andy. I'm basically the technical advisor to Rygate and have committed to bringing this project to fruition. Background in wood pellet technologies and running a wood pellet mill that ultimately closed down in West Windsor, Vermont. So this will be my my second attempt at getting a pellet mill up and running here in Vermont and in a sustainable fashion. As far as key members of the team, we've got Wilson Engineering. We've done most of the engineering for the overall heat recovery of the plant to increase that efficiency. Santec and VHB have done a lot of the civil engineering permitting. We've got air quality noise study, and then DRM as on the legal team. Regulatory approvals needed, obviously is Act 250 land use permit. It is a 60+ acre site. Industrial zone. We have gone through local zoning as well, and all of the other permits have been issued, applied for at this point. Issuance is forthcoming. As far as the facility itself, the company Crodessa is really the lead technology provider for the project. They have an office in Georgia, and they do a lot of southeast pellet mills and a lot of drying technologies. The dryer for this plant is really quite unique in that the heat recovered from the stack.
Which plant?
The proposed dryer for the Rygate plant.
For the Rygate plant or for the Rygate pellet producers?
For the Rygate pellet producers.
So not the Rygate electric plant,
Correct.
but for the plant that you
The
seek
pellet,
to locate adjacent to the current electric
exactly,
producing plant.
exactly.
So we have members on the committee that are new, and it's
I'll slow down and be more concise. So the overall project is to recover heat from the stack. Right now, biomass power plants in general are very inefficient. They send a lot of heat up the stack. And rightfully so, they're being forced to increase their overall efficiency to better use this biomass resource, this woody resource. This 50% increase in efficiency, really the only way to obtain it is through heat recovery. So not send as much heat up the stack, take that heat and do something valuable with it. As was mentioned earlier, there's been all these other ideas of, warming big ponds and raising fish, or tilapia or shrimp. Not very economically viable, not necessarily a great approach, and doesn't really contribute to the other sectors of the economy, of the forest economy that this facility is currently involved in. So the overall waste heat from the stack, the current design and engineering is taking that heat and putting it through a very low temperature belt dryer, which the Prodessa company has come up with the engineering for, and drying wood chips. So then the idea is, well, what do we do with all these dry wood chips? There is a plan to market these chips to local schools, and to other facilities, such as potentially the state facility. The drier the chips that enter a wood chip system like the state uses, like National Life uses up the hill, a lot of our schools use, the drier the chip, the more efficient their systems are. Because the higher the moisture content of a wood chip hitting your boiler system, the more energy it requires to drive off that moisture. So probably yesterday when you came in, it was 11 degrees and blowing out. You saw a lot of steam coming out the stack across the street. That's water. And that's water that has to be driven into steam in the gaseous state by burning more fuel. So the less water you have in the fuel, the higher the efficiency. So there is a goal to really reduce the amount of processing on site and get these dry wood chips into the hands of current wood chip boiler operators. That's somewhat of an unproven market because there are no suppliers of kiln dried chips to facilities like this right now. So the next best approach is let's take these wood chips and make them into wood pellets, which is a grinding and a processing of the wood chips. The enabling technology is this belt dryer. It's a very low temperature unit, utilizes a lot of the available energy from the stack. And there's a couple key components here. I'm not going to read this off to you, but the key components are that when you're doing low temperature drying, you're keeping your VOCs, your volatile organic compounds in the chip itself. You're not blasting that off into the atmosphere, which is an air quality issue. And the other real big benefit to this is that we're not burning any more wood on site to create the dry chips. So exactly what the power plant burns today, they will not burn any additional wood or wood chips to provide this drying. It's all in the form of waste heat that's coming off the plant as it is today. Yes.
Great.
Just a quick question. I mean, it sounds like it's not a joke question, but almost could sound like one. If you didn't have enough of a market for your chips, or there was some supply started to build up, would the plant itself ever combust those drier chips as part of generating electricity?
We cannot do that per the regulation to increase efficiency by 50%.
Right.
That's kind of like the self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah.
You can't dry the chips to increase your efficiency and then put those chips back into the system. So in order to operate the power plant, the dryer must be operational at all times, and those dry chips have to enter a separate market space than being dried in the plant itself.
Sure.
Now, they could go to another plant to increase their efficiency. But overall, I mean, my goal, the goal is to get a more local source of wood pellets. Currently, there's only one other wood pellet mill within the state. It's a very small mill, cannot keep up with the demands of the state, and does export a lot of their product because that's where they establish their market with the Vermont brand name. So we import most of our pellets right now from Quebec, from northern New York State, and from as far away as like northern Maine. So one of my personal goals here is to really take that Vermont brand name of the pellet and build upon it for a very robust local market, and then start to export some of these pellets into.
Just, we're talking about chips and we're talking about pellets and we're talking about steam, which now goes up the chimney. At the same time that the chips are creating steam, which over here is turned into electricity. It's difficult to keep track of pellets and chips. I think some senators may believe that those are interchangeable.
Understood.
So when we're talking,
So the first step in producing a wood pellet is to create a dry chip. So most pellet plants take in wet chips and they dry them in a direct combustion process. So they burn material, typically sawdust, shavings, and dry, and they direct fire into big rotary drum dryers, just like a clothes dryer at home. Some of them are fired on propane or natural gas. These would be massive burners firing into wood chip tumblers. We're bypassing that entire process by taking waste heat off of the stack, going through a belt dryer to dry chips as the first step in creating wood pellets. Completely independent of the wood chips that are being burned in the power plant itself. The power plant does burn wood chips, to your point, to create steam, a high pressure steam boiler to run a steam turbine to then generate electricity.
which is sold at above market rates.
Is sold under the PPA.
And your attempt is to find a way to bring the electricity down to market rates. So I just, I'm speculating so that it's not being subsidized, but it's being saleable at market rates so that the Vermont electric ratepayers don't have to subsidize the plant. Is that the goal here that's being
The goal here
proposed to us?
The goal here is to increase the total efficiency of the plant to meet the requirements of Act 155 in order to maintain the current power purchase agreement, or to allow for a future power purchase agreement to be put into place. So the goal is to meet the requirements of Act 155 to increase the total efficiency of the plant.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we're here in large part because we have an experimental plan that was built with state funds, help subsidized, to see if making electricity with chips was a viable alternative. And we haven't yet gotten to the point where the plant is able to produce electricity at market rates. Am I correct so far?
I believe you're correct in that, yeah. I mean, my lane is really the wood pellet, the drying, and the other side of it.
Learning today,
But I understand what
a proposal that would hopefully bring down the cost of the electricity that you produce. And presumably the plant would be able to do that because it's able to produce pellets
There would be some offset.
more efficiently. But when we're talking about making the plant more efficient or 50% more efficient, what are the things that are being more efficient? The electricity production,
No, this is efficiency from a thermal efficiency perspective.
which is
So energy.
none of our business really.
No, I think, Senator, we asked them to do this.
No, they proposed, we said if you can produce electricity more efficiently, we will give you an opportunity to do that, and you have a proposal on how to produce electricity at a closer to market rates.
I think the deal was that if they can make some money off of wood pellets or shrimp or anything else, they would more efficiently use the heat. And they would have some offsetting revenues that might perhaps, they're gonna have to go in for PPA after this anyway.
And that it would make the electricity they sell close at market rates so that the electric ratepayer buyer wouldn't have to buy electricity that was more expensive than other alternatives. That's what they're trying to do, I believe.
Since you were one of the main spokesmen when this thing came up, I don't think they can get the cost of the electricity down because they've got the same plant producing. But they are more efficiently using the heat to provide another business, which may allow them to offset the costs of the electricity because it'll cover their overhead.
Which
So which should lower.
would
the
then
cost.
meet our hopes, goals, that you can produce electricity and not have the ratepayers subsidize the electricity. that is
Senator,
being
as the
purchased.
chair said, there, at the end of this, there is a new rate case that opens up in November of 2025, which will then determine the new PPA in November of 2026. And I don't know, I was not working with them in 2022, but I'm not sure if that is something that is considered and part of the rate case decision, but we can certainly look into that to find out for you.
I believe, Madam Chair, they wouldn't be operating the plant now. If they were trying to sell electricity that no one was interested in buying, because it's too damn expensive.
Well, I believe we utilities have to buy it.
Because we told them they have to buy it.
That's right. This was one of our original renewable energy. It is the one that can produce year round, whereas solar doesn't on computers like this one. And there was a reason we set it up. They're trying to keep it open. We extended the present PPA to give them a chance. And this is the most viable alternative I've seen that might actually allow the plant to operate efficiently and produce something that we need, which are wood pellets.
Well, and the other goal, if I may, is also to maintain a robust forest economy. I mean, this plant currently is positioned to buy in low-grade wood and keep loggers and foresters in the woods and cutting, and keep people who have forest management plans on their own private lots an outlet for that low-grade wood. That's the goal of this wood chip drying to make wood pellets coincides with that. In fact, we'll double the amount of wood we can buy.
Understood if that is also is traveling together with your proposal. What percentage of the forestry products come from Vermont?
I believe there is a map on here. I don't have that number off the top of my head. Maybe Larry can speak to that. But when we look at the overall map, a majority of our wood basket is within Vermont. It obviously extends into New Hampshire as well because of the proximity of this, but as do a lot of our Vermont loggers. You know, a lot of our Vermont operators, a lot of our Vermont loggers, haulers operate across the border as well. So while they may be, you know, we may be buying from, I think currently is something like 76 different loggers. A majority of them may be in Vermont. They're gonna be cutting, you know, within the regional wood basket.
My question is, Madam Chair, I would think that we could be told what percentage
Okay, I
of
think we
the
heard
fuel comes,
Okay.
that we're trying to preserve, comes from Vermont
I
and New
believe-
Hampshire, and we ask this every year,
And
and
I believe
we don't
we
get a
have-
number.
I believe we have gotten a number. I have seen a map. They said maybe the plant manager knows, but again, you buy it from a logger. he's working in both states.
Madam
You have
Chair.
something against New Hampshire wood?
The,
Is it?
the
inferior?
subsidy
No, it's-
that purchases these, that keeps the forestry industry going, is paid exclusively by people who live in Vermont who buy the electricity at a higher rate. I would like to know, when we're purchasing, keeping the forest economy going, if the money that the promoters pay to keep the forestry thing going
I think it's a fair
or
question.
goes to Vermont,
Yeah.
Vermonters, or to New Hampshire, or, and I hope we have a measurement of that.
Absolutely. I mean, the mill is required to have an on-site forester who's licensed by the state. And these are numbers. Should be able to produce those numbers. I don't see any reason.
Well, they have yet to be produced in the several years we have.
I hear and
extended these
I hear and understand your frustration. I won't take it on to ask the question.
Well, and I just wanted to acknowledge Larry Anderson is on Zoom. Larry, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself for the record and if you want to weigh in on this at all.
Yes, this is Larry Anderson. I'm the plant manager at Highgate Associates. We have provided that number in the past. I believe it was the last time we had a session here in legislation. And memory serves right, it is close to a 50-50 split between Vermont and New Hampshire.
It is a 50-50 split.
That's what the man said.
Close to that.
Okay,
Close.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but those numbers were generated and submitted.
yes, we have gotten these numbers before, Senator. They may not be the numbers you want, but we've gotten them. I can remember the map with the logging areas and,
The logging areas and acreage from which it comes is
Yes.
not a measure of product purchased. So,
okay, the answer we have is 50-50, give or take probably 5%. That probably varies by delivery. Senator Chittenden had a question.
I'm new to this, it's on the border, right? Like this is right next to New
Right, it's
Hampshire,
on-
this is partly a function of that, I'm guessing.
And it is in the middle of nowhere if you'd like to drive by, but
The power plant is physically on the border.
Yeah. Senator Gray.
And when you're getting your numbers together, can you also include, estimates on the volume of additional purchases related to the new chip side of things? Thank you. It's, I don't know what to call it, hold your ears, a bonus, that we're increasing opportunities for people in the first class industry to sell twice the thing, not just on one side.
With the current plan, as we have it today engineered, we would be doubling the overall purchase of in tonnage of wood into the facility.
And for the two sides, is there any difference between buying in hardwood or softwood? I don't know if you're using different fuel types for the different operations.
We tend to avoid hardwood because it has a higher market value, starting at firewood. And going all the way up to saw logs.
Yeah.
So most of the chips that we're buying in are softwood, mixed softwood. Sometimes considered, pulp wood. It's the low grade, zero market value anywhere else, wood. Specifically for that. So very little, if any, hardwood comes in. As far as the pellet plant is concerned in the chip drying operation, we look to do even limit a little bit more and to say all eastern white pine. Because there's truly no market for it now, and
No pulp. Okay.
right. Particularly with the pulp lines closing down up in Jane Main, and the potential for some other closures. So and as it so happens, Eastern white pine makes a great wood pellet. That's what currently Vermont wood pellet uses as well for the same reasons.
Well, that's a curiosity question. How long does it take to dry the pine to the state you need it to be pellet?
Depends on the technology. In the case of this technology, the chips will be held in the dryer for approximately 30 minutes. You know, it's a continual process, so they're belt dryers.
Yeah.
But there are drying technologies where it's a matter of seconds as well, depending on the heat. This is a low heat drying,
Yeah.
so we're literally hundreds and hundreds of degrees lower than a standard dryer. The dryers that I've had experience with previously, it was about 18 seconds that the wood was in the actual dryer itself.
So I'm aware of your time right now, so I think that we can sort of, just to summarize, you want to quickly summarize where we are in the progress?
Yeah, so overall progress, we've been hitting all of our milestones as far as signing construction contracts, filing with PUC, stormwater and operational permits, zoning permits, and the biggest hurdle we just got through was the Act 250, which was Act 250 permit was filed back in December. We have had our first public hearing through that process, and of course now we're waiting on the big permits to come through before Act 250 can be granted to us. The largest being the air quality permit, because that involves both state and federal EPA. So the timeline on that is really what is pushing things out, if you will.
Okay, and what, I guess, this is a good report. Report back, but what do you need from me?
Right, so that, this is all available
Yeah.
online too, so you have this.
Zane has it, so it's on your website.
Yes, correct. And we've talked about some of the benefits of the wood pellet project, but that is also here too for you to look at. The amendment that we're requesting is simply a pushback of 1 year on all of the future dates. So the certification on the main components being completed, being pushed out from October 1 of this year to October 1 of 2025. And if the why hasn't really been clear, then we just want to reiterate that, you know, Rygate has been following the request of Act 155 and filed their Act 250 petition in December. But even in sort of a best case scenario, we're looking at sometime this summer, even to fall, and that's without appeal for the air quality permit. And so, you know, to then request engineering of main components when the permits haven't been approved, that's the issue
Yeah.
that we're facing right now.
So you would be starting with the November 1st, 24. And move October 1st, I don't know. Okay, so we're done July 1st, 23, so. We move the October 1st, just move all those 24s to 25s on down the line. Okay. And if we decide to do that, we will need to find a vehicle. Correct. That it is relevant to. Okay. That might be a little easier for natural resources to find, but
Quick question, so I get how if you're building something, it can take a while, get it up, you have to have permits. Are you also pushing, I don't know the old days, are those are all advanced by 1 year? So in other words, you're also asking to push your rate case off by a year.
Right, well, so the PPA was extended to 2032
Yeah.
unless it dissolves because we didn't meet the timeline. And so it still would be in place at the 10 cents a kilowatt hour until the PUC determines a new rate, whether that's 2026 or 2027.
okay.
The DPS and PUC have to basically come in after the project is operational
Right.
and certify that, yes, indeed, they've increased the efficiency, yes, indeed, they're operating under these guidelines. And, you know, to the point, you know, are they now producing electricity for lower and be able to readjust those rates?
Okay. So, Greg, I'm not gonna ask you for a comment, but when we take this up again, if you have anything to add, it's another section, isn't it?
Sure.
That's that, but, okay. And then we have to find a vehicle. All right, committee, Jim is on. Okay, so the wood info I have to share. Okay, Jim Porter is on, thank you, yeah.
There is, there may be, we have three PUC bills in Nashville. I don't know yet what the state will be, but it could be that one of those.
You could strip and we can. This,
What
we
was
decide.
it? Strip and use, like add on or?
Add on, no, if you're not gonna take it out, I could use the vehicle, you could, or you could add this on. Okay, if we decide to do it, which we have not talked about, but we will. Next, we've got Jim Porter. And this again, committee, I had asked Mr. Porter before we decided to shove 236. But we heard that the Department of Public Service does represent the public and does in some way deal with aesthetics. So I thought I would ask Mr. Porter to tell us what they do, what they have the power to do. So Jim, the floor is yours. You know the routine.
Thank you for having me in today. I'm Jim Porter. I'm the Director for Public Advocacy at the Department of Public Service. And I think I have seen all of the testimony you've taken on this bill, including Mr. Faber and Mr. Sterling's testimony yesterday. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but to go to Senator Cummings' question, would you like for me kind of to go through how the department gets involved with aesthetics concerns?
Yes, I think that would be helpful. We are struggling to find an alternative to really not letting the next door neighbors have a voice in it, but at the same time, not allowing them just to slow down the process and make it more expensive. We thought maybe we could funnel them through you.
So, sure. And just to give you a general overview, and I think Mr. Faber has said this previously, the overwhelming majority of solar petitions that come into the department and the PUC, they're reviewed and they are recommended for approval without a great deal of process. But so when a case gets filed, we assign it to a lawyer and they assemble our internal team, which always includes our electrical engineering division, and they review every petition for reliability, safety, which typically includes things with the electrical codes and wiring and grounding of these facilities. Sometimes it involves noise, but that's reviewed by us in every petition that we review. Regarding aesthetics, what we tend to do is first wait and see. We look at it and say, you know, if somebody files a 20 megawatt project, that's a huge project for Vermont. And I will typically tell the lawyer automatically, you need to go hire an aesthetics expert. And just to explain how that works, I think, currently have 3 aesthetics firms under contract, and those are who we use to do a review when it's necessary. And typically we do it when a case becomes contested. And our idea is that we are providing to the Public Utility Commission an unbiased review of the project. We don't care if the project fails or succeeds. We tell these experts to go and, you know, review it and let us know what you think. So typically we'll watch to see if we get public comments from the neighbors, if we get neighbors that intervene and they will mention aesthetics typically is one of the issues on which they would like to intervene in the proceeding. And if there are enough comments, or, the petitioners have to make a showing, when they make their filing, of the aesthetics analysis. And so I'll tell you, petitioners don't file aesthetics analysis that say that their project doesn't conform. So if anybody comes in and raises the issue and it appears it's going to become an issue, then we will retain an aesthetics expert and we will take a position on aesthetics in that case, depending upon whatever the aesthetics consultants come up with.
Okay, I guess if we don't allow the neighbors to appeal on aesthetics, then you won't have those comments to know you should intervene. I think, what we're trying to make sure is that those neighbors get the chance to get a cedar hedge between their property and the project. But I don't think we want to allow them to just hold up the process for a year or two. And we're trying to figure out how that might work.
Well, and I'll tell you also in Title 30, before a petitioner files their petition with the Public Utility Commission, at least 45 days before that, they have to provide notice to the municipality in which the project is proposed to be located. And the municipality has the ability under statute to ask the department and the petitioner to attend a public meeting that they have. And that's a great opportunity for the department to show up and have the petitioner kind of go through what the project is going to look like, and for us to hear the concerns that we're going to have. And one thing and we have one aesthetics expert in particular who part of their review is there will be a site visit that the commission will have where all of the parties and the neighbors can go down and the PUC and look at the proposed project. And we have one aesthetics consultant who's very good about looking at when neighbors say, this is going to ruin my view, they will look at their particular perspective and frequently offer some type of planting mitigation. And I think and they will put that into their report and recommendation. And I think both statute and the rule require the PUC will then order that mitigation. So the department, our general, and look, I understand for a developer that it's expensive to propose these projects in many instances. When we hire an aesthetics expert, we bill it to the petitioner, so they're going to have to pay for our expert as well. But in a public utility proceeding, when you allow the neighbors to come in, they frequently provide aesthetics analyses that maybe are done by themselves or by a friend, by someone that I'm not going to hire because I'm not sure they would actually be qualified as experts. But by their getting to do that before the PUC gets to hear from the landowners exactly what their aesthetics concerns are. And, I know that two cases we've heard about, or I think you had Jocelyn and Brooke come in earlier, Brooke Dingledine and Jocelyn Wilczyk. And, there was the Manchester case, and all of the experts who were hired said the project, as you know, did not fail any aesthetics test. The PUC determined differently, but there was a huge amount of neighbor and public input that the PUC received. that I think probably impacted their decision. So, you know, it's not always the credentialed experts who carried the day. And so I think unlike in a court proceeding, sometimes for pro se, non-represented neighbors to come in and argue their interest, I think it's very helpful for them. And I think it's much more beneficial in the PUC world than it is in a lot of other adjudicatory bodies.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions? Okay. I believe that is it for the day. I'm getting out earlier than usual, but I have a feeling the day before vacation, nobody's heart and soul is really here. If anybody
Oh, yeah, so here.
over vacation as a turn of heart and would like to take this bill off the wall, let me know. And then I think I will ask Kirby to take out that tax on the satellite, just so we don't bog that bill down. Because we've got a week to get it out of here. And I think if there is some money coming, I think across the hall, I'd like to know that.
We'll be voting on that when we come back.
We will be voting it, we'll come back, we've got that. We did get an S bill today, right, that we will be taking up, but we've got a charter change. And we've got an ag bill, both of which I assume have a fee in there somewhere. So I don't think they're gonna take a long time, so we'll get those out. We've got a couple H bills sitting here we can get out, captive insurance and the housekeeping. And then we'll see what gets sent our way. Have a good vacation, rest, enjoy town meeting. And we will see you all in a week. A little more than a week. With both, this is the first.
You going to a warm place, Madam Chair?
No,
Town meeting could be quite warm this year.
yes. I think so does Australia.